All right, today we are diving into a topic that is right at the heart of any efficient, reliable operation, and that's maintenance information management, or MIM for short. We're going to look at how you can go from total data chaos to real confidence, and how that shift can completely transform the way your organization works. Okay, let's jump in. So let me just start with a really simple question for you. When you get your weekly maintenance reports, the KPIs, the downtime numbers, do you actually trust them? Be honest. If you even hesitated for a second, I can tell you you are definitely not alone. It's probably one of the biggest pain points in any asset-heavy industry.
And this quote, this just nails it, doesn't it? That feeling of doubt, those arguments you have in meetings about whether the numbers are even real, that's not a sign you have bad dashboards. It's a huge red flag pointing to a much, much deeper issue with how you're managing your maintenance information.
So what really happens when your information is unreliable? Well, the costs are often hidden in plain sight, but believe me, they're very, very real. Let's dig into the price an organization actually pays for living in this chaos. Okay, first up, planning rework. Just picture your planners for a second. They open a work order, but they can't trust the history. There's no clear scope, no parts list, nothing. So what happens? They have to rebuild the entire job plan from scratch. Every single time. This just burns an incredible amount of effort and brings everything to a grinding halt. Then you've got the storeroom. Bad data leads directly to stockouts because you have no idea what your real demand history looks like. And this, of course, forces those frantic last-minute emergency purchases, which are always more expensive. And it leads to you holding way more inventory than you'll ever need, just tying up cash that could be used somewhere else. And what about your reliability teams? The very people who are supposed to be preventing failures. Well, they end up spending something like 80% of their time just cleaning up and correcting data instead of actually analyzing it. So defect elimination stalls, and you find yourself fixing the same problems over and over and over again. And the big one? Ultimately, this all erodes trust. When leaders can't rely on the reports they're given, how are decisions made? Well, they fall back on gut feelings, on anecdotes, on whoever happens to be the loudest person in the room. This isn't just inefficient, it's a massive unmanaged risk to the business. Now, here's a perfect, real-world example of how one tiny data failure can create these huge ripple effects. So, let's say you've got the exact same bearing in your system, but with 3 different part numbers. What happens? The planner gets stuck and delays the job. The buyer ends up ordering duplicates. The technician on the floor? They give up searching the system and just ask their buddy for that bearing. And the analyst? They have no way of connecting the dots to see that this specific bearing is failing every 6 months. It's a total breakdown across the board. So we've laid out the problem pretty clearly, but what's the actual solution? Let's take a minute to define what maintenance information management, or MIM, really is, because it's something a lot of people misunderstand. When you boil it all down, MIM is the discipline that turns all those raw maintenance records, the what happened, into valuable insight. It's what lets you make decisions that aren't just one-offs, but are consistent, defendable, and repeatable. It's really the bridge between just doing the work and actually learning from it. And this is a super important distinction to make. MIM is not your software. The software is just a tool. It's also not some one-time cleanup project you can check off a list and forget about. And here's the kicker. It is not just maintenance's problem. No way. It's a cross-functional responsibility, and it's fixed by having solid workflows and clear ownership, not by just sending everyone to another training class. Okay, so that all sounds great, but how do you actually build a strong MIM program? Well, it really boils down to 4 fundamental principles that are going to keep it focused and effective. Think of these as the 4 pillars that hold the whole thing up. It absolutely has to start with alignment, making sure the information you're gathering actually helps achieve real business goals. From there, you need a holistic approach because you need everyone, from operations to engineering to finance, on the same page. When you get that right, you start treating your information as a true asset, something you protect and invest in. And finally, all of this is supported by constantly managing your data health, making sure it's accurate, complete, and truly fit for the job you need it to do. Let's look at a really practical example of that first fundamental, alignment. Say your big goal is to increase uptime. Well, then you absolutely need accurate downtime data and solid failure codes. Why? Because that's what lets you target the real problems. Or if you want to reduce costs, you've got to track your labor and materials properly to expose where the waste is. You see, every piece of data should serve a clear purpose. All right, now let's get into the nitty-gritty, the DNA of maintenance information. Because not all data is created equal, and understanding the different types is absolutely key to managing it all effectively. First, you've got master data. The easiest way to think about this is like the skeleton of your entire system. It's your asset list, your equipment hierarchy, it's the what and the where. This stuff doesn't change very often, but when it does, you need to have it under really tight control. Next up is reference data. Think of this as your system's official dictionary. It's the controlled, approved lists of things like failure codes, work types, and priorities. This data is what gives everything consistent meaning, and it's what allows you to actually analyze and spot trends in your information. And finally, there's transactional data. This is the history. It's the constant, high-volume stream of work orders, inspections, and meter readings that tells you what happened day in and day out. This data moves fast. So here's the crucial takeaway. You have to manage these different data types, well, differently. Master data needs the absolute strongest control because it's your foundation. Reference data also needs strong control to keep everything consistent. But your transactional data? That's managed through smart, well-designed workflows that just guide people to make the right entries as they do their work. And this quote just sums it up perfectly. If your master data, your structure, is wrong, then every piece of history you collect on top of it is basically fiction. You simply cannot trust a trend if the foundation you built it on is broken. You've always got to fix the structure first. Okay, let's bring this all home. Let's look at how this all builds to the ultimate goal. Because when you get this right, the payoff isn't just about having better reports. It's something much, much more powerful than that. It's about having confidence. When your information is actually reliable, the benefits just start to stack up. You get higher availability because you're finally fixing the right problems. Your costs go down because you're cutting out waste and all that emergency work. Your schedules become more stable, your teams are finally aligned, and most importantly, you can make fast decisions based on actual evidence, not just guesswork. So I really want to leave you with this final thought. In the end, it all comes back to trust. If you truly want to reach higher levels of reliability and performance, you have to start by building a foundation of information that your organization can actually stand on and depend on. Because if you can't trust your data, you're not really managing, you're just guessing.